Our programs offer many languages. Please visit suprememastertv.com/schedule.
That person who helps others simply because it should or must be done, and because it is the right thing to do, is indeed, without a doubt, a real superhero. Stan Lee.
Stan Lee, Superhero of Storytelling, Part 2 of 2. Continue watching to find out more.
Hello, cherished viewers. I am Camus. The generous people of gorgeous Samoa pray that comfort and peace envelop your everyday. We are delighted to have you join us for part 2 of our 2-part series entitled Stan Lee, Superhero of Storytelling.
I'm Stan Lee. I've been writing stories for the young generation for the past 30 years. During this time, I think I've learned a lot about what young people think. More importantly, I think I've learned a lot about what young people are. We're going to try to present a voice that somebody will listen to. The voice is needed. We hope it will be ours.
Stan Lee, a legend in the comic book industry, played a major role in creating hundreds of beloved Marvel Comics characters, from Spider-Man to the Fantastic Four, the Hulk, to Thor, and the X-Men. Gregarious, sprightly, and emitting an ever-youthful spark, he believed in bringing goodness to the world through entertainment. Stan Lee humanized heroes who continue to influence pop culture and inspire young and old to always follow the path of light. While Stan Lee accredited his wife as his inspiration, he was always true to himself in his writing, stating,
I tried to write stories that would interest me. I don't think you can do your best work if you're writing for somebody else, because you never know what that somebody else really thinks or wants.
The Marvel characters that he helped formulate live in the real world. They come with imperfections and a human touch. Like ordinary people, they have their own shortcomings and issues to cope with, but they also do extraordinary things. For instance, the adolescent Peter Parker is a regular guy with relationship problems, but turns into the web-slinging, wall-scaling Spider-Man to protect the innocent. Stan Lee explained more in the following footage from a 1977 interview on the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation's 90 Minutes Live.
Well, they were perfect in the sense of the characters they were portraying, but we tried to bring comics a little more into the real world. You know, I shouldn't really say this, but the chances are that possibly even you and I aren't perfect. But today, most people just aren't. We tried to make our characters have feet of clay. Now, poor Spider-Man. I mean, okay, he's pretty good at catching bad guys, but he's apt to get an allergy attack while he's fighting. He worries about dandruff. He'll have an ingrown toenail, tears his costume. His Aunt May won't let him go out to save the world because he's not wearing his galoshes and it's snowing out. And the funny thing is, I started doing that as a gag and really to keep myself awake, you know. And I found that the readers are as crazy as I am. They started enjoying this sort of thing. So after 20 years of writing pap and writing things like the strips you mentioned before, I suddenly realized, gee, I can actually have fun with what I'm doing. And now the more realistic we make our characters, the more the college kids who read them think that it's satire, which has taught me a very great lesson. The world is so crazy that if you present things the way they really are, it comes across as broad satire. And
Oh, wait a minute, no.
all the sociology and psychology majors can do what they want with that one.
Ultimately, the Marvel superheroes exemplify the best qualities within each and every one of us. As Stan Lee said,
That person who helps others simply because it should or must be done, and because it is the right thing to do, is indeed without a doubt a real superhero.
we're going to clean our window in case our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man comes over for a visit. We'll be right back after a brief message here on Supreme Master Television.
Excuse me, I'm looking for some guy named Stan Lee.
What? Spider-Man? Pam, hold my calls for a while. I think I've finally gone crazy. You know, Spidey, I've always wanted to experience real web-slinging.
And I've always wanted to be appreciated as a real hero. It seems you've made me into one. Thanks.
Hey.
Welcome back to our program. Stan Lee, Superhero of Storytelling, Part 2 of 2. Like the characters he created, Stan Lee led a very ordinary life despite his exceptional talents. Speaking of his breakfast, he said,
I've had the same thing for years. I have orange juice, and then I have cereal. I have granola with berries, and sliced bananas, and a cup of coffee. And man, it's great. I'm a creature of habit.
Stan Lee never forgot his humble beginnings, so he was ever ready to help the aspiring artists and writers under his direction. After all, he was once in their position. Moreover, his noble ideals always shone through his creations. The one constant outcome in his stories was that good would triumph over evil and love conquers all. In 1968, Stan wrote in his soapbox column,
For many years, we've been trying, in our own bumbling way, to illustrate that love is a far greater force, far greater power than hate. Now, we don't mean you're expected to go around like a pirouetting Pollyanna, tossing posies at everyone who passes by, but we do want to make a point. Let's consider three men, Buddha, Christ, and Moses, men of peace, whose thoughts and deeds have influenced countless millions throughout the ages, and whose presence still is felt in every corner of the earth. Buddha, Christ, and Moses, men of goodwill, men of tolerance, and especially men of love. Now consider the practitioners of hate who have sullied the pages of history. Who still venerates their words? Where is homage still paid to their memory? What banners still are raised to their cause? The power of love and the power of hate. Which is most truly enduring? When you tend to despair, let this answer sustain you.
In 1972, Stan Lee became Marvel's editorial director and publisher. Later in 1980, he moved to Los Angeles to promote Marvel's film ventures. He built up his presence in Hollywood and settled down in a home overlooking Sunset Strip. Through his work and collaborations with fellow artist-writers like Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko, Stan Lee resurrected Marvel Comics and influenced pop culture. He revolutionized the entire industry and catapulted Marvel into being the world's top publisher of comic books. In 2009, Marvel Entertainment was sold to Walt Disney for a mighty sum of $4 billion. Stan Lee won numerous accolades during his prolific career. He was inducted into the comic book industry's Will Eisner Award Hall of Fame and Jack Kirby Hall of Fame. In 2008, he received the prestigious National Medal of Arts. In 2017, he was named a Disney legend for his extraordinary contribution to the Walt Disney Company. To think how that Stan Lee had once thought his work was embarrassing is rather astounding. He said,
I used to be embarrassed because I was just a comic book writer, while other people were building bridges or going on to medical careers. And then I began to realize, entertainment is one of the most important things in people's lives. Without it, they might go off the deep end.
In 2010, he founded the Stan Lee Foundation to provide literary resources, arts programs, and education to people of all ages while promoting diversity, literacy, culture, and the arts. At 93 years young, the ever sprightly Stan Lee filmed 4 cameos back-to-back in a single day for 4 separate Marvel Studio projects: Doctor Strange, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Spider-Man Homecoming, and Thor Ragnarok. Marvel Studios President Kevin Feige was all praised for Stan Lee, saying,
He flew down and we shot 4 in one day for 4 various projects. They're all awesome, they're all totally different, and he was unbelievable. He was on fire.
Stan Lee always remained humble and considered himself incredibly lucky. He reminisced,
I've been the luckiest man in the world because I've had friends. And to have the right friends is everything. People you can depend on. People who tell you the truth if you ask something.
Stan Lee passed away on November 12, 2018 in Los Angeles. He had lived a brilliant, meaningful 95 years, leaving us his timeless, iconic superheroes who continue to inspire and entertain people of all ages and backgrounds. Stan Lee once said,
You know, my motto is Excelsior. That's an old word that means upward and onward to greater glory. It's on the seal of the state of New York. Keep moving forward, and if it's time to go, it's time. Nothing lasts forever.
With gratitude in our hearts, we salute the life and career of Stan Lee, bringing us endless hours of joy and entertainment. May his soul continue to move upward and onward to a greater glory. Excelsior!
For more information on Stan Lee, please visit therealstanlee.com.
It's been a pleasure to have you, our noble viewers, with us today. Coming up next is The Vegan Princess's Kitchen, Part 1 of 2. Delicious and nutritious princess bean pasta with vegan cheese. Right after noteworthy news, here on Supreme Master Television. May your days be filled with the glorious light of the divine.
Our
programs offer many languages. Please visit suprememastertv.com/schedule and suprememastertv.com/MOS.
Nos programmes offrent plusieurs langues. Veuillez visiter suprememastertv.com/schedule et suprememastertv.com/MOS.
Nuestros programas ofrecen varios idiomas. Visiten suprememastertv.com/schedule e suprememastertv.com/MOS.
Nossos programas oferecem vários idiomas. Acesse suprememastertv.com/schedule e suprememastertv.com/MOS.